Children of Nyx, tonight you wake up on the banks of the Nile, 2500 BCE. The good news, the sun is rising over the horizon, gilding sand and water alike. The bad news, you're about to discover why not a single modern soul could last a single day in ancient Egypt. This isn't a history lecture, this is you picked up from your bed and transported to ancient Egypt. So buckle up, pull up your blanket or grab your bite or glass of milk, shut down the lights and enjoy this dreamy voyage of the night. Before we proceed, make sure you subscribe to our channel as we'll be putting you to bed with such stories every week, and do let us know, and the other children of Nyx, which part of the world you are from. So drop a comment and share it with your friends. Let's get this started with you blink, and the smell hits first. Damp sediment, rotting papyrus and manure. It's not the floral incense you saw in documentaries. It's pungent, immediate. You feel the cold mud between your toes, mud that's half water, half dead fish. The Nile's annual flood is receding, leaving a slick layer of debris. You inhale sharply, something squelches underfoot. Good news, you're alive. Bad news, everyone around you assumes you're a stranger no one expects or wants. Roads are dusty goat tracks. There's no smartphone to call for help. No one speaks your language. You'd better learn bread in ancient Egyptian, and fast. You try a greeting. Hello. They look at you blankly. The sound that leaves your lips dissolves into the humid morning air like vapor, utterly meaningless. Your modern tongue might as well be the bleating of a goat, for all the comprehension reflected in their coal-rimmed eyes. Those eyes, dark, suspicious, studying you with the wary calculation of people who've learned to distrust anything unfamiliar. Your clothes, or lack thereof, depending on how the cosmic journey treated you, already mark you as foreign, possibly dangerous, definitely unwelcome. You need water, bread, shelter, the basics of survival. But how to ask? Your parched throat constricts as panic begins to set in. The sun, barely risen, already feels like a hammer against your unprepared skin. You can feel each individual droplet of sweat forming on your forehead, trickling down with agonizing slowness. Your tongue stumbles on dib, drink. The locals gather, their laughter sharp and cutting like obsidian knives. Is it mockery? Fear? Perhaps they think you're a demon in human form sent to test them. You gesture wildly, mimicking drinking, your desperate pantomime growing more frantic. Your stomach churns with hunger, twisting into knots that would impress the rope makers working by the harbor. A man, with shoulders broad as temple columns, steps forward. His skin is the color of burnished cedar, crisscrossed with scars that tell stories you'll never comprehend. The crowd parts for him. Someone important then. He speaks, and though the words are meaningless, the tone is clear. Follow or suffer. Next thing you know, you're being led through narrow, winding streets toward a looming structure of limestone and granite. The temple. And you haven't even paid your first barter yet. The sun climbs mercilessly in the cloudless sky, a blazing copper disk that shows no mercy. Already it's 90 degrees by mid-morning, and you can feel your skin tightening, cells crying out in protest. No sunscreen, no polarized sunglasses, no moisture-wicking fabric, just a rough linen kilt that was hastily wrapped around your waist. The fabric chafes against your thighs with every step, creating a friction that transforms into a burning sensation where sweat collects in the creases of your skin. Your need for shade becomes primal, instinctive. Your eyes constantly scan the landscape for any respite, a palm tree, an overhanging roof, anything to escape the relentless hammer of sunlight. The heat radiates from the ground in visible waves, creating a shimmering mirage that distorts everything beyond 50 paces. Your lungs feel like they're filling with hot sand instead of air. The sweat that pours from your body doesn't evaporate. It mingles with the dust to form a grimy paste that coats your skin. Salt crystals form at your temples, your eyelashes, between your shoulder blades, stinging like tiny needles wherever your skin folds or bends. The inside of your mouth tastes like metal and salt. Then come the flies. They descend in black clouds, drawn to the salt and moisture of your sweat. They aren't the relatively benign houseflies of your era. These are vicious, determined creatures with mouth parts designed for piercing and sucking. They land on your face, your arms, any exposed skin, inserting their proboscises with surgical precision. The pain is sharp, immediate, dozens of tiny, hypodermic needles extracting your blood. You swat frantically, but for every fly you kill, 10 more take its place. They crawl into your ears, a maddening buzz that seems to vibrate directly against your eardrum. They explore your nostrils, tiny legs tickling the sensitive membranes. You inhale sharply in disgust and accidentally suck one into your throat, triggering a violent coughing fit that leaves you doubled over, eyes streaming. Your scratching becomes frantic, fingernails leaving red welts that the flies immediately investigate as potential new feeding sites. Your skin breaks, tiny rivulets of blood attracting even more insects. The itching is beyond bearing, a full-body torment that makes you contemplate flinging yourself into the Nile, crocodiles be damned. That's when you notice it, a sacred ibis standing motionless in the reeds nearby, watching you with unnerving focus. Its curved beak and calculating eyes give it an almost reptilian appearance. The locals revere it as Thoth's messenger, but you know it's watching the cloud of flies surrounding you with professional interest. It stalks forward, spearing flies from the air with its long beak, each strike precise and lightning fast. You're briefly grateful for its intervention until you realize it's only following you for the buffet you provide. You're nothing but a mobile fly trap to this sacred bird. Your body is now a battlefield, sweat mingling with blood, mud caking your legs, flies feasting on every fluid they can access. Your throat constricts with thirst, and the realization dawns with horrifying clarity. You still haven't found a single drop of clean water. Desperation drives you to the riverbank, where clay pots sit in orderly rows, collecting the sacred waters of the Nile. Your hands shake as you reach for one, the weight of it nearly beyond your depleted strength. The jar is cool against your palms, the clay still damp from the river. It promises relief, salvation. You lift it to your cracked lips, propriety and caution abandoned in the face of primal thirst. The water sloshes against your mouth and you gulp greedily. It floods your parched throat with immediate, exquisite relief. But the taste, oh, the taste, is nothing like the filtered, chlorinated water of your time. It's complex, alive, silty sediment scrapes against your teeth. The mineral tang of dissolved limestone coats your tongue. Hints of rotting vegetation and something disturbingly animal lurk beneath. You can feel grit settling between your molars, but you're too desperate to care. For a moment there's only blessed relief as the water cools your throat and dilutes your thickened blood. The dizziness recedes and you almost smile, but within the water lurk invisible enemies that your modern immune system has never encountered. Bacteria, parasites, and amoebas that the locals have partial resistance to, but that will wage apocalyptic war on your unprepared gut. The microorganisms waste no time establishing their beachhead. It starts with a gurgle, innocent enough that you might mistake it for hunger. Then a cramp that doubles you over mid-stride, a knife twist of pain so sudden you gasp. Sweat breaks out anew across your forehead, cold and clammy this time. You look around frantically for somewhere private, but there are no bathrooms, no toilet paper, no privacy screens, just mud brick buildings, open streets, and the ever-watchful eyes of locals. The pressure builds, unstoppable as the annual flood itself. Your sphincter, the last loyal defender of your dignity, begins to fail. You stagger behind a storage hut, just as your body betrays you completely. The relief is momentary, immediately replaced by shame, and the horrifying realization that this is just the beginning. Dysentery doesn't resolve after one purge. The cycle repeats with increasing frequency and violence. Each episode leaves you weaker, emptier, more dehydrated. The cruel irony, water caused this, but water is what you desperately need to replace what you're losing. Your vision blurs. Your legs tremble beneath you. The world narrows to the distance between episodes, measured in heartbeats rather than minutes. Someone finds you curled in misery, your skin grey-tinged and cold despite the heat. Words are exchanged over your prone form. You're half-carried, half-dragged to a small hut where an elderly woman sits surrounded by clay pots and bundles of dried herbs. The healer. She examines you with hands that feel like parchment against your skin. Her breath smells of onions and something bitter. Medicinal herbs, perhaps. She speaks rapidly to her assistant, who brings forward a small earthenware bowl. Inside writhes a glistening black leech, thick as your thumb. The healer points to your abdomen, miming placement. Your eyes widen in horror. Surely she doesn't mean to... She does. The leech is intended to draw out the bad blood causing your illness. As her weathered hands approach with the writhing creature, you realize with perfect clarity that modern medicine is 4,500 years away. The only question now is whether you'll survive long enough to miss it. Somehow, perhaps through the dubious medicinal properties of the leech, perhaps through your body's stubborn refusal to die, you recover enough strength to continue your Egyptian adventure. With your newly acquired and painfully earned street smarts, you manage to barter labor for goods, eventually securing what passes for finery in this ancient world: a pleated linen kilt with a rudimentary belt, armbands of hammered copper, and a beaded collar that scratches your sunburned neck with every movement. The outfit cost you 3 days of hauling water, and it's both too expensive, given your non-existent resources, and too tight. The kilt binds in places that make sitting an adventure. But you look almost like you belong, which might keep the priests and officials from immediately arresting you as a foreign spy. With your new disguise in place, you wander toward the most impressive structure in the settlement, the Temple of Ra. The limestone edifice gleams blindingly white in the midday sun, its columns decorated with intricate hieroglyphs that you can't begin to decipher. The approach is lined with Sphinx statues, their impassive faces regarding you with ancient judgment. The stone beneath your bare feet is hot enough to fry an egg, and possibly your souls as well. You need sanctuary, a moment of peace, perhaps even the comfort of spiritual connection, regardless of which gods are being worshipped. The massive pylons at the entrance frame a dark interior that promises cool shadows and respite from the relentless sun. What you don't know, how could you, is that temples weren't ancient Egyptian versions of modern churches or mosques. They weren't public gathering spaces, but sacred houses for the gods themselves, tended by priests who guarded access with zealous ferocity. Only the pharaoh and high priests were meant to enter the innermost sanctums, but no one stops you as you pass through the first courtyard, where pilgrims mill about with offerings. You continue inward, drawn by the scent of incense and the tantalizing darkness beyond. The air shifts as you enter a hypostyle hall, becoming thick with aromatic smoke. The ceiling soars overhead, painted with stars that seem to twinkle in the flickering lamplight. Columns carved to resemble bundles of papyrus support the massive roof, their surfaces alive with colored reliefs of gods and pharaohs. The temperature drops noticeably, a blessing after the furnace outside. Ahead, priests in white linen robes move through complex rituals. One holds aloft a smoking censer, another anoints a statue with fragrant oil. Without thinking, you reach for an unattended incense burner, meaning to add your own offering to whatever deity might be listening. The sound that erupts from the priests makes your blood freeze. It's not merely anger, it's horror, the kind reserved for catastrophic sacrilege. They rush forward, beating at the flames with ritual cloths, their faces contorted with fear and outrage. You back away, stammering apologies they can't understand. Your elbow connects with a table of offering bowls. They crash to the floor, shattering their contents. Milk, honey, wine, forming a sticky mural of your transgression across the sacred floor. "Heset! Heset!" one priest screams, pointing at you with a trembling finger. The others take up the cry. Whatever he said means it's clearly not honored guest or forgiven stranger. Strong hands grab your arms, fingers digging into flesh with bruising force. A staff strikes the back of your knees, sending you crashing to the floor. Your cheek connects with the stone. Sticky with spilled offerings, the copper taste of blood fills your mouth where you've bitten your tongue. You're dragged backward, your fine new kilt ripping at the seams, your beaded collar scattering its components across the floor like colorful tears. The sunlight blinds you as you're hauled into the courtyard, where a crowd quickly gathers to witness your disgrace. The high priest, distinguished by his leopard skin cloak and elaborate headdress, pushes through the throng. His eyes, lined with kohl that extends in dramatic wings toward his temples, survey the damage, the disrupted ritual, the spilled offerings, the slight scorch mark on Ra's sacred image. He speaks, his voice carrying the weight of divine authority, and though you don't understand the words, the tone is unmistakable. Judgment. Condemnation. Something about your strange appearance, your foreign ways, your obvious ignorance of sacred protocols. The crowd murmurs, some backing away, as if your impurity might be contagious. Others press closer, eager to witness your punishment. In this moment, you understand with perfect clarity how completely you've misunderstood everything about this world. Your modern sensibilities, your assumptions about religious tolerance and cultural exchange, all meaningless here, where offending the gods could bring disaster upon the entire community. The high priest raises his staff, and you cringe expecting a blow. Instead, he points to a side chamber and barks an order. To your surprise, you're not dragged to an execution block, but to a small windowless room thick with incense smoke and the buzzing of flies. Inside waits a junior priest with a shaved head and eyes that seem too large for his narrow face. He clutches a sistrum in one hand and a bowl of something dark and viscous in the other. When he sees you, his expression shifts from apprehension to determined resolve, an exorcism, you realize with dawning horror. They don't think you're merely ignorant, they believe you're possessed by evil spirits, and they intend to drive them out, one ritual at a time, no matter how long it takes or how much it hurts. As the door closes behind you and the priest begins to chant, rattling his sistrum in complex patterns, you wonder if perhaps death by crocodile might have been the easier option after all. After the exorcism, hours of chanting, foul-smelling smoke, and what felt suspiciously like beatings disguised as driving out evil spirits, you're released into the late afternoon sun. Your head throbs with each heartbeat, your throat raw from screaming protestations in a language no one understands, the hieroglyphs painted on your forehead and chest in some sacred pigment itch as they dry, flaking off in rusty particles that catch in your eyelashes. Hunger claws at your insides. The dysentery left you empty, the exorcism left you drained. You need food, real food, not ritual offerings or symbolic sustenance for the afterlife. You slink toward what appears to be a marketplace, a chaotic sprawl of stalls and blankets spread with goods. The air is thick with competing aromas. Roasting meat that makes your mouth flood with saliva, pungent spices that tickle your sinuses, fermented fish sauce that turns your stomach, donkey dung still steaming in the street. Flies form black halos around hanging meat. Cats prowl between vendor stalls, hunting vermin with single-minded focus. Your stomach growls audibly as you approach a woman selling what looks like porridge from a blackened pot. The smell hits you like a physical force, cold barley mash with a sour undertone of fermentation. Floating in the greyish sludge are unidentifiable chunks that might be fish, preserved in salt until they barely resemble once living creatures. White crystals cling to the flesh, catching the light like tiny diamonds among the murk. The vendor offers you a clay bowl of the mixture, the surface rippling as something inside, possibly still alive, shifts position. You hesitate, your modern sensibilities warring with primal hunger. The porridge glistens with a slick film of oil, iridescent in the slanting afternoon light. A bubble rises slowly from the depths and pops with a wet, flatulent sound. Your face must betray your disgust, because the vendor's expression hardens. She barks something that needs no translation. Eat it or leave. Behind her, two women grinding grain on stone querns pause their work to stare at you. Their heads are completely shaved, exposing scalps spotted with sunburn and insect bites. Their eyes narrow with suspicion. You belatedly recall something from a documentary. Only slaves cover their hair in ancient Egypt. Free women display their locks proudly, often augmented with wigs. Your hand flies reflexively to your own head, checking for whatever covering might have marked you as property. The women exchange glances loaded with meaning. One says something to the other, and they both laugh, a harsh, unpleasant sound entirely lacking in humor. The porridge vendor joins in, pointing at your strange appearance. Desperate to deflect attention, you reach for a clay pot nearby, thinking to examine it, to appear interested in trade rather than charity. Your fingers barely brush the vessel's surface before a cane whistles through the air, connecting with your forearm with shocking force. The blow lands with a crack that reverberates up to your shoulder. Pain explodes along your radius and ulna, a white-hot starburst that momentarily blinds you. You stumble backward, clutching your injured arm, only to collide with something solid and perfumed. Not something. Someone. The crowd falls silent, the marketplace's chaotic buzz replaced by the eerie quiet of collective held breath. You turn slowly, already knowing what you'll find. The noble towers over you, his height exaggerated by an elaborate headdress that adds at least a foot to his stature. His skin is smooth and pale compared to the sun-leathered workers around him, protected from manual labor by his station. Gold collars circle his neck, wristbands gleam at his forearms, and his kilt is pleated fine enough to resemble silk. The scent of myrrh and cedar oil envelops him like an invisible cloak, barely masking the underlying musk of sweat. His eyes, outlined in kohl so precisely it seems painted with a single hair, measure you from head to toe, catalogue your oddities, and find you wanting. His nostrils flare slightly, whether from disgust at your unwashed state or surprise at your foreignness, you can't tell. The crowd watches, motionless, as the noble extends one bejeweled hand palm up. The gesture needs no translation. Tribute, payment, obeisance. You pat your borrowed kilt frantically, knowing it contains nothing of value. The noble's expression darkens. The cane wielder from before edges closer, weapon raised. The women with shaved heads back away, unwilling to be caught in whatever punishment is coming. In this moment, you understand ancient Egypt's social hierarchy with perfect clarity. It isn't a theoretical construct from a textbook. It's a visceral reality where your place determines whether you eat or starve, live or die. And you, mysterious foreigner with strange ways and empty hands, have no place at all. The sun reaches its zenith and work stops. Not out of mercy, but necessity. Even ancient Egyptians knew better than to labor through the most punishing hours of the day. You're herded with the others into a shaded area, your legs barely supporting your weight. Someone passes out more bread and beer, plus a paste of what might be mashed beans. The food tastes of dust and salt, but you devour it without hesitation, your body demanding calories to replace what you've burned. The beer, which revolted you this morning, now tastes like ambrosia, despite being warm enough to steep tea in. Your fellow workers regard you with a mixture of curiosity and distrust. One man, whose weathered face suggests decades under the Egyptian sun, gestures to your raw, bleeding hands. He reaches into a small pouch at his waist and extracts a greenish salve that smells of herbs and animal fat. The mixture is cool against your wounded skin, bringing immediate, blessed relief. This small kindness nearly breaks you. You feel tears rising, but here, crying wastes precious moisture your body can't afford to lose. The man nods, understanding transcending language, and returns to his meal. The respite ends too soon. A series of shouts signals the return to work, and the thought of gripping that rope again makes your stomach clench. But there's no choice. Not if you want to survive this extraordinary, terrible day. The horizon resolves into a scene of ordered chaos. Thousands of workers swarming over massive limestone blocks, scaffolding rising like skeletal fingers against the cerulean sky. The Great Pyramid is still under construction, its perfect geometry emerging from human suffering and mathematical precision in equal measure. The base stretches vast and imposing, already completed, while the upper levels remain a work in progress. What the documentaries didn't prepare you for is the sound, a cacophony of human voices raised in coordinated chants, the grinding shriek of stone against stone, the crack of whips and overseers' commands, the hollow thudding of wooden mallets against chisels. It's deafening, disorienting, a wall of noise that hits you with physical force. Nor did they adequately describe the smell, the mingled stench of thousands of sweating bodies, animal dung, burning oil, dust, blood, and the peculiar mineral scent of freshly cut limestone. It's a miasma that clogs your nostrils and coats the back of your throat with each labored breath. Your noble benefactor, or captor, hands you off to a foreman whose body resembles a barrel, short but powerfully built, his shoulders and back a topographic map of muscle and scar tissue. Without ceremony, you're thrust into a team of workers hauling a limestone block up a ramp of packed earth. The stone slab weighs at least 50 pounds, a small one by pyramid standards, and your portion of its weight settles onto your shoulders like divine punishment. The rough surface immediately begins abrading your skin through the thin linen. Your spine compresses, discs protesting the unexpected load. Your knees threaten to buckle with each upward step on the inclined ramp. The ramp itself is treacherous, sand over pressed earth, offering uncertain footing that shifts and slides beneath your bare feet. Each step requires careful placement, yet the pace allows no time for caution. The workers around you move with practiced efficiency, their bodies hardened by years of this labor. Sand fills the air, kicked up by thousands of feet, stirred by the hot breeze that offers no relief. It finds its way into your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your lungs. Each breath rasps in your chest. Each exhale carries the taste of grit and dust. You cough, earning glares from your team members. Breaking rhythm is dangerous when carrying stones that could crush a man. Sweat pours from you in rivers, soaking your linen kilt until it clings transparently to your skin. The salt stings the fresh abrasions on your shoulders. Your vision swims, dark spots dancing at the periphery. Each step becomes an act of will, each breath a conscious effort. The overseer's voice cuts through your days, harsh, guttural commands in ancient Egyptian that sound nothing like the melodious reconstructions in academic lectures. The accent is thick, the consonants harsh, the vowels stretched in ways no modern Arabic speaker would recognize. It's alien, aggressive, and utterly incomprehensible. Something in his tone triggers primal fear. You've done something wrong, failed to follow a command you couldn't understand. The stone begins to slip from your grip, your sweat-slicked hands unable to maintain their hold. The world tilts, the sky and earth trade places in a sickening whirl of blue and brown. The last thing you register before consciousness flees is the expression of horror on your fellow workers' faces, not concern for your welfare, but fear of what your failure will cost them. When awareness returns, it comes in fragments. The cool touch of stone against your cheek, the metallic taste of blood in your mouth, the weight around your ankle, unfamiliar, chafing with each involuntary twitch of your leg. Your eyes crack open to find dusk has fallen. Your body has been dragged to the side of the work area, forgotten but not released. A metal cuff encircles your ankle, connected by a short length of chain to those of a dozen other workers. A corvée crew, conscripted laborers bound to service, not by choice but by law and force. The pyramid looms above you, impassive and eternal, indifferent to the suffering that creates it. In its shadow, you are nothing, less than nothing, just another broken body in service to pharaonic immortality, another soul crushed beneath stones meant to defy death itself. As the afternoon wears on, you're reassigned to a new task. Perhaps your obvious weakness at construction made someone take pity on you. Now you find yourself in a shallow area of the Nile, helping to haul in fishing nets. The water is a blessing against your overheated skin, but each step is treacherous. The riverbed is a complex landscape of mud, submerged plants, and sharp objects you can't identify. Something slithers past your ankle, a fish, you desperately hope, and not one of the Nile's more dangerous inhabitants. The net is heavy with the day's catch, silverfish that leap and flounder, crabs that snap at exposed fingers, and things with too many legs that you'd rather not examine closely. Your nostrils fill with the smell of river mud and fish, a primal scent that triggers hunger even as it repulses you. A shout from the bank. Everyone freezes. 20 yards downstream, a ripple in the water becomes a snout, becomes a crocodile. Its ancient eyes regard the human buffet with prehistoric patience. Someone whispers a prayer to Sobek, the crocodile god. Slowly, carefully, the fishing party edges toward the shore, abandoning part of the catch as a sacrifice. Your legs shake with the effort of moving without splashing, each step a delicate negotiation with panic. The crocodile slides lower in the water, only its eyes visible now, watching. Finally, blessedly, your feet touch dry land. The crocodile, perhaps deciding that the abandoned fish are easier prey than fleeing humans, remains in the river. Your heart continues to hammer against your ribs long after the danger has passed. Morning brings no reprieve. Your corvée crew is roused before dawn, fed the now familiar gritty bread and cloudy beer, and led back to the pyramid construction site. But your body has reached its breaking point. The stomach cramps begin suddenly, knife-like spasms that fold you double mid-step. This isn't the dysentery from yesterday. This is deeper, more insistent. The pain radiates outward from your abdomen, stealing your breath. Yellow spots dance across your vision. Your skin feels simultaneously burning hot and clammy cold, a contradiction that terrifies. You collapse in the sand, unable to even cry out. Your chainmates stop, forced to accommodate your sudden incapacitation. The overseer approaches, reed switch raised to strike, but pauses when he sees your condition. Even to his experienced eye, accustomed to every manner of work avoidance tactic, your distress is unmistakably genuine. Words are exchanged over your trembling form. Someone mentions Sekhmet, the lioness goddess of healing and disease, she who can both inflict plague and cure it. A decision is reached. You're unchained from the work gang and half carried, half dragged to a different temple than yesterday's house of Ra. This temple smells different. Less incense, more medicines. Herbs hang in bunches from ceiling beams, drying in the still air. Clay pots line stone shelves, their contents ranging from powders to unguents to preserved specimens you'd rather not identify. The walls bear paintings of a lioness-headed goddess standing among supplicants, her hands alternately dealing death or offering life. The healer who greets you is ancient, her skin a web of wrinkles so intricate it resembles cracked river mud after the flood recedes. Her eyes, however, are sharp and clear, taking in your condition with clinical detachment. She wears a leopard skin draped over one shoulder, marking her as a high-ranking priest-physician, and a heavy pectoral of gold and carnelian around her neck. She directs assistants to lay you on a stone table in the center of the room. The stone is cool against your fevered skin, but unyielding against your protruding spine and hip bones. You stare upward at a ceiling painted with protective symbols, winged serpents, and the ever-present eye of Horus. The examination begins without preamble or privacy. Multiple hands probe your abdomen, pressing uncomfortably on tender areas. The healer leans close, her breath smelling of garlic and mint, studying your eyes, your tongue, the color of your skin. She pinches the loose skin on the back of your hand, watching how slowly it returns to position, checking for dehydration. She steps away, consulting with assistants in rapid-fire Egyptian. From a leather pouch, she extracts a handful of small animal bones, knuckle bones perhaps, or vertebrae, carved with symbols. With a practiced flick of her wrist, she casts them onto a painted circle beside your table. The pattern they form apparently holds meaning, as she nods with grim satisfaction. An assistant approaches with a clay pot containing a silvery grey ointment that catches the light with an unnatural metallic sheen. Mercury. Your eyes widen in alarm. You know enough about ancient medicine to recognize this is heading in a dangerous direction. The healer scoops a generous portion with her fingers and approaches your exposed abdomen. The ointment is shockingly cold against your skin, its weight and texture unlike any modern medicinal cream. It doesn't absorb but sits in a slick, heavy layer that seems to draw heat from your body. The healer spreads it in circular motions, chanting under her breath as she works. The mercury leaves a trailing silvery residue on your skin that catches the lamplight, making your torso appear scaled like a fish. Next come the amulets, small carved figures of protective deities, scarab beetles, ankhs, and eyes of Horus, each threaded onto thin leather cords. These are tied around your waist, your wrists, your ankles, your neck. They click against each other with each shallow breath, tiny guardians supposedly fighting the invisible forces causing your illness. But the healer isn't finished. From a covered basket, she extracts a writhing mass of black leeches, each as thick as your smallest finger. Without warning or explanation, she applies them to strategic points on your abdomen, your chest, the insides of your elbows. Each one attaches with a pinching sensation that quickly fades as the leech's natural anesthetic takes effect. You watch in horrified fascination as they swell with your blood, growing from sleek black tubes to bulbous sacs. The healer nods with approval. The bad blood is being drawn out, the imbalance corrected. You feel lightheaded, unsure whether it's from the blood loss, the mercury slowly absorbing through your skin, or simple terror. As if this weren't enough, an assistant approaches with another basket. This one contains white, writhing larvae, maggots harvested specifically for medical use. These are applied to the abrasions on your shoulders from yesterday's stone hauling, the still healing cuts on your feet from the riverbed. The sensation of their tiny mandibles gently debriding dead tissue sends shivers of revulsion through your weakened frame. Hours pass in this twilight of semi-consciousness, pain, and ritualized healing. The leeches are eventually removed, having done their work. The maggots, to your surprise, have actually cleaned your wounds effectively, removing dead tissue without damaging healthy flesh. One ancient practice with actual merit. The healer returns to your side, studying your face for signs of improvement. Whatever she sees causes her to frown and consult her bone casting once more. She confers with assistants, pointing at your abdomen, where the mercury ointment has been mostly wiped away, leaving a faint metallic sheen on your skin. The decision is apparently reached. Stronger measures are needed. The healer instructs an assistant, who hurries away and returns with a covered clay pot. The smell that wafts from it when the lid is removed is beyond description, a putrid, fecal stench that instantly clears your sinuses and nearly makes you vomit. With ceremonial gravity, the healer scoops the contents, a greenish-black paste flecked with fibrous material, and holds it before your horrified eyes. Crocodile dung. gathered fresh, mixed with herbs and minerals, aged to the perfect consistency for medicinal application, a renowned Egyptian remedy for, well, nearly everything. As she moves to apply this ultimate poultice to your abdomen, you realize with perfect clarity that whatever is wrong with you, this treatment can only make it catastrophically worse. But you lack the strength to resist, and the assistants hold your weakened limbs with gentle, implacable pressure. The ancient world's most advanced medical care is about to be administered. All you can do is close your eyes and pray to gods you didn't believe in until yesterday. Somehow, incredibly, you survive the healer's ministrations. The temple attendants, perhaps tired of your moans or concerned about contamination, move you to an antechamber as darkness falls. Here, you're provided with a woven reed mat laid directly upon the stone floor, luxury accommodation by the standards of your short time in ancient Egypt. Night descends like a heavy curtain, absolute in its darkness. No streetlights, no ambient glow from neighboring cities, not even moonlight penetrates the narrow window slits of the temple walls. The darkness is primeval, complete in a way your modern eyes have never experienced. It feels solid, pressing against your skin like cool velvet, filling your lungs with each labored breath. You lie on your mat, every muscle in your body sending up individual complaints. The reed weaving digs into your shoulder blades, hip bones, and the back of your skull, every protruding part of your anatomy making intimate contact with the unyielding floor beneath. The mat offers no cushioning, only the barest separation from the cold stone that leaches warmth from your fever-racked body. The sounds of night are alien and unsettling. Within the temple walls, sandaled feet pad softly on stone floors as priests perform nocturnal rituals. Oil lamps hiss faintly, their flames creating dancing shadows that loom and shrink along painted walls. The smells change too, the day's incense giving way to mustier odors. Lamp oil, unwashed bodies, the metallic tinge of dried blood from sacrifices. Outside, a different soundscape emerges. The wind whispers through palm fronds, a constant susurration that sometimes rises to a moan as it finds pathways between buildings. Jackals set up a chorus of howls that sound disturbingly like children crying in pain. First one voice, then many, calling back and forth across the desert's edge. Their cries raise the hair on the back of your neck, primitive parts of your brain recognizing the sound of predators coordinating. Something scuttles across the floor near your head, too large to be an insect, too small to be a cat. A rat, perhaps, or one of the numerous small lizards that inhabit every nook of Egyptian buildings. You feel its presence more than see it, a disturbance in the air, the faint scratch of claws on stone. Your skin crawls with the thought of what else might share your sleeping space. Scorpions seeking warmth, spiders hunting in darkness, centipedes with painful stings. Sleep comes in fitful bursts, interrupted by pain, by strange noises, by the unfamiliarity of everything around you. During one such waking moment, you become aware of shadows moving along the temple wall. Human figures elongated to monstrous proportions by the placement of oil lamps. They sway and undulate in rhythmic motions that could be ritual dance or something more sinister. The mercury from the healer's ointment may be affecting your mind, because the shadows seem to detach themselves from their human sources, moving independently, reaching toward you with grasping tendrils of darkness. You squeeze your eyes shut, but the images persist on the inside of your eyelids. Dancers becoming demons, becoming gods, with animal heads and human bodies. When you force your eyes open again, the shadows have stilled. Instead, the silence is broken by a new sound, chanting from a different part of the temple complex. The voices rise and fall in eerie harmony, the words incomprehensible, but the intent clear. Supplication, propitiation, warding. With effort, you raise yourself onto one elbow, straining to listen. The chanting comes from the direction of what must be the mortuary temple, the place where priests maintain eternal rituals for the dead. But this isn't the regular evening service. There's an urgency to the rhythm, a tension that transcends language barriers. A temple attendant passes your doorway, carrying fresh offering bowls. You catch his attention with a raised hand, gesturing toward the sound, your face forming a question. His expression, illuminated briefly by his lamp, transforms from annoyance to something like pity. Kaibitu, he says, pointing at you. Ba nefer imi hut. You don't need a translator to understand his meaning. The prayers, the urgent rituals, the increased activity as midnight approaches, they're not for the pharaoh or the regular temple deities. They're for you. The Egyptians have identified something in you, your foreignness, your strange reactions to their world, your inexplicable appearance in their midst, as supernatural. Perhaps they believe your soul is trying to escape your body. Perhaps they think you're possessed by spirits or demons. Perhaps they see you as a walking omen, a harbinger of disaster that must be contained through ritual. Whatever the case, as you lie in darkness surrounded by the sounds of animals hunting and priests chanting, you realize you've become something more than a lost time traveler or an unfortunate stranger. You've become a focus of ancient Egyptian supernatural concern, and that may be more dangerous than any physical ailment or labor punishment. The night stretches endlessly before you, each hour marked not by clocks but by changing constellations visible through the high window slits. The fevers come and go in waves, leaving your mat soaked with sweat that quickly chills in the desert night air. Your abdomen still cramps intermittently, though whether from your original illness or the treatments is impossible to know. As you drift between consciousness and delirious dreams, the boundary between reality and nightmare blurs. The painted figures on the walls seem to move, the animal-headed gods stepping from their two-dimensional confines to stand beside your mat, watching with inhuman eyes. Anubis, with his jackal head, leans close, sniffing at you, perhaps evaluating whether you're ready for his ministrations. The crocodile god Sobek opens his long jaws, displaying rows of teeth that would make quick work of your frail body. Are they fever dreams or visitations? In this world of absolute belief in the supernatural, where gods walk the earth in animal form and magic permeates every aspect of life, the distinction hardly matters. The terror is real, squeezing your chest, accelerating your heart until it threatens to burst from your ribcage. Outside, the jackals fall silent. The wind drops, the night holds its breath, waiting. The eastern horizon lightens imperceptibly, the pitch black of night softening to charcoal grey. Dawn approaches, a milestone you never expected to reach when this journey began. Has it really been only 24 hours since you woke on the banks of the Nile? It feels like weeks have passed, each hour stretching into an eternity of new miseries. Your body catalogues its complaints with methodical precision. Dysentery has left you dehydrated, your lips cracked and bleeding. The sunburn across your shoulders and nose has blistered, the fluid-filled welts ready to burst at the slightest touch. Your hands are raw from rope and stone, your feet lacerated from river debris and hot sand. Insect bites cover every exposed inch of skin, some swollen to alarming proportions, leaking clear fluid that dries into itchy crusts. Mercury poisoning from the healer's ointment has added a persistent metallic taste to your mouth and a tremor to your hands. The spot where leeches fed shows bruising that will take weeks to fade if you survive that long. Your stomach still cramps intermittently, quieter now but ominously persistent. And these are just the physical torments. Each hour has brought new psychological hells, the disorientation of complete cultural alienation, the frustration of language barriers, the terror of medical practices more likely to kill than cure, the grinding anxiety of never knowing what fresh disaster awaits around each corner. The relentless novelty of your situation has worn away your mental defenses. Nothing is familiar, nothing offers comfort. Every experience, from eating to sleeping to relieving yourself, requires navigating unknown customs and physical conditions your modern body was never prepared to handle. It's the sensory overload that truly breaks you. Modern life, for all its stresses, has predictable sensory parameters. Here, everything assaults your senses with primal intensity. The heat that seems to boil your brain inside your skull, the omnipresent grit that finds its way into eyes, mouth, and wounds, the taste of blood from your bitten tongue, the squelching mud between your toes, the bitter herbs forced between your lips by well-meaning healers, the acrid smoke of oil lamps, the stench of your own festering wounds. Even the success stories feel like failures. Your single triumph, convincing a goat to stand still long enough for you to milk it into a clay cup, ended when the animal spat directly into your face, a glob of malodorous saliva landing squarely on your sunburned nose before the creature bolted, knocking over the precious milk in its escape. You laugh weakly at the memory, the sound rattling in your chest like dried beans in a gourd. What hubris to think a modern human could step into ancient Egypt and thrive. The past isn't a theme park with inconvenient bathrooms. It's a crucible designed to destroy anyone not forged specifically for its conditions. Outside your chamber, the temple begins to stir with morning activities. The chanting has stopped, either completed or paused until the next ritual hour. Dawn brings new concerns. Will the priests force more treatments upon you? Will you be returned to the Corvée gang? Or will they simply leave you here, too damaged to be useful, too strange to be trusted? The sky continues to lighten, paling from grey to lavender to the first hints of gold. The sun god Ra begins his daily journey across the sky, his sacred bark sailing through the heavens as it has for thousands of years before you and will for thousands after. Can you make it until full sunrise? The night's horrors, real and fever-induced, recede with each brightening moment. But ancient Egyptian days bring their own torments, heat, labor, hierarchies, punishments. And your weakened state makes you vulnerable to every passing threat, from disease to violence to simple neglect. Perhaps the gods you never believed in until experiencing their world firsthand, will take pity. Perhaps Sekhmet will withdraw her plague-bringing hand from your fevered brow. Perhaps Horus will cast his protective eye upon you. Perhaps Thoth will grant you the wisdom to navigate this alien world. Or perhaps you'll join the countless unnamed souls who perished unremarked in the shadow of monuments built to ensure immortality for the few at the cost of the many. The first direct ray of sunlight pierces the high window, landing with uncanny precision on your chest. Its warmth spreads through your body, not yet the punishing heat of midday, but the gentle promise of continued life. For this moment, at least, you've survived. Children of Nyx, ancient Egypt, isn't a vacation in linen robes and golden sunsets. It's a crucible of sun. And yet, incredibly, you've survived. The temple priest appears at the dwelling entrance, studying you with renewed interest. Something has changed in his demeanor, a calculation taking place behind those dark eyes. He speaks, and though you still don't understand the words, you recognize your name which you never told anyone. As you stumble after him into the new day, one thought crystallizes with perfect clarity. Not a single modern soul could last in ancient Egypt. But against all odds, you're still here, still breathing the same air as the pyramid builders, still putting one blistered foot in front of the other. Children of Nyx, as dawn breaks over the Nile once more, your adventure continues. Whether you'll find your way home or make a new life in this ancient world remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, you'll never look at a museum exhibit the same way again. Sleep well, modern time travelers. Tomorrow night, we journey elsewhere. Don't forget to subscribe for more nocturnal adventures and tell us in the comments. If you could spend one night anywhere in history, where would it be? Until next time, children of Nyx, may your dreams be more comfortable than ancient reed mats.